Welcome everyone to the very first Ethos Connect Stars of Ethos podcast. Um, so, as a quick background, so people understand who don't know Ethos, um, the Ethos Connect community or story is one in terms of how Ethos was formed, and I guess the genesis of why we're here. It was a community that essentially has formed out of other workshops and communities that had formed online, from Seth's Akimbo workshops as an origin, and then other various writing communities that had happened. And then those had come to an end. And then this community formed out of that. And the curators of the Ethos Connect community they're all here, Michael, Michelle, and Leanne, and myself. And that's basically how Ethos exists, as a group of creators, makers, writers who come together to be in community and share time together, work together, share their work. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. The podcast idea itself, the Stars of Ethos, was born because we were sitting as curators one day and sort of thought, oh, should we do a newsletter? What should we do? And we were talking about that, and then we're like, well, maybe we can do an unnewsletter. Why don't we do a podcast? There's all these people doing quite amazing things in the community. How about we spend potentially some time with those people and talk about what they're doing and share that with the community as a newsletter? That seems really interesting. So that's basically where the Stars of Ethos idea came from. I'm pretty excited about today. I first met Kathy. I think it was in writing in community, possibly, or it might have been before that. I'm sorry if I've got that wrong, but in the writing in community, that was one of those ones I mentioned earlier. So, and I had seen Kathy's work and seen her photography and all of the things she's doing, and I'm not going to go into too much depth on that now, but have been following along with great interest and fascination with the things that Kathy does. So today's star is Kathy Karn. And so the episode topic today, which I've I've produced, is Kathy Karn's Safari Sojourn. There you go. 3 hours to come up with that. Okay, so that's a quick roundup of today. In terms of what we're covering, there will be some time to look into Kathy, your work, your journey, a little bit about Ethos, how you've come to be here, a chance to meet, and we welcome now the Safari Sojourners. So we have Michal Berman, Betsy Bowen, and Ellen Newman on the call. Welcome to each of you. Lisa might make it along, Lisa Orlick. So we welcome you, a chance to meet with you. And then we'll have a time of group discussion about the safari itself, maybe a bit of show and tell. I don't know if you brought the line, Kathy. And then a bit of a wrap up at the end, just sort of tied up all in a bow. I guess as an overall purpose, it's a bit of a safari community experience today. So we'll quickly now jump into the as a starting point, Kathy, into your work in particular, a chance to talk about that, the inspiration behind the safari trips and your work in general. So to begin with, I know my first encounters with you and the work you did were around your photography and this amazing book that you were producing. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that, about your photography and that work.
So it must have been writing in community, Daniel, where I think I met most of you. And that coincided. I was in the Creatives Workshop, February 2020, when COVID happened, and Seth sent out this email. So I subscribed to his blog saying, would anyone like to join this online writing community? That dovetailed the life-changing experience I had in January 2020 in Kenya. I think that was my 7th or 8th safari. By then, I was totally hooked on Africa. I started going in 2018, taking some groups over there with an NGO, Canadian NGO, and doing some volunteer work, building schools, being on the ground with the people, which was awesome. You don't go to Africa, at least I would never recommend that you go to Africa without going on a safari, particularly in a country like Kenya or any of the East African countries for sure. So that part got me hooked in terms of the people and the place and the cross-cultural conversations I was having. I felt like there was a part of me that opened up. I was 60 when I started going. So now you know what an old lady I am now. But it took me back to a place of my childhood. I was one of those kids who was glued to the TV every Sunday night watching Disney World and going on safari with these incredible animals. And to be in Africa, I don't know what took me so long to get there. Mick has lots of history there. That's her place of origin. I have a hunch if I'd gone in my 20s, I might never have come home. But when I got there in my 60s, it awakened a childlike piece in me, as well as my adventure traveler, if you will. I've always loved animals, always loved wild places. I've had the great privilege of rich experiences with indigenous cultures. And being in Kenya in particular, and in the areas where I was traveling in particular, I got to encounter and have experiences with these people, and I was hooked. So it's this early piece, it sort of got things going. My husband and I were supporting a young rural girl through high school. I hadn't been back to Kenya for 5 years, and in 2018, I said to him, she's graduating, I'm going. And he said, well, I've been with you 4 times. Have a great trip. You know how some countries you go to and you enjoy them, but you don't necessarily want to keep on going back. So I went back in 2018, and that I would say was the origin of where I am now in terms of really focusing on my photography, opening up the world of wildlife photography. I've always had a camera around my neck, but getting really more serious about it. And I also traveled in 2018 on my own for the first time in Kenya. And it was a very healing experience for me. So I went back in 2019, of course. Now I was finding any way I could get over there. And in 2020, I said, I'm going back, but I want to go back to the southern part of the country that has these big elephants, like that guy in the picture behind me. And southern Kenya, the Amboseli region, is known for its big tuskers. They are a unique gene pool. And because of historical stuff that we don't have to get into now, that because of trophy hunting and poaching and so on, that gene pool was drastically reduced. And there was a very famous elephant, a world famous elephant, who was really the ambassador for big tusker elephants in Kenya, and his name was Tim. So I'd signed up for a photo safari, and I said to my travel guy that I work with here, I said, I want to go to Amboseli first. I'll go by myself. I had this dream that maybe I could see the big tuskers. Maybe I could meet Tim. And that was all set up, and that was the evolution of what happened in the book, because the way it unfolded, and I don't know if any of you, but when I have a history of some trips with purpose, and I think when you set off with trips with purpose and you're open to anything happening, often magic does happen. And of course, I was connected online with following these famous wildlife photographers who would go with teams of spotters to find these big elephants. And they would, be communicating across the plains. Oh, we saw him 2 days ago over here, and everyone raced over there and so on. So I thought, I know I'll have a good time, and maybe I'll meet Tim. So I set up. I was going to have 3 days in Amboseli, and the night before, my travel agent texted me and he said, I'm so sorry, but everybody on the plane is canceled and they don't fly single people down to Amboseli, so they're probably going to charge you another seat. I'm trying to really do something about it. And I said, I have to pay 2 seats. I don't care. I'm going. So that's exactly what happened. I got on the plane, and the guy came and got me in this little tiny airport and said, "Are you Kathy Karn, our VIP traveler today?" Yeah, that's me. And we flew down there, and me alone in this 12-seater plane, and we landed on this airstrip, and there was one tree, one car, one guy by the car. And I got off the plane, and he came and met me, and he said, "Hi, my name's Hilly Pilly. I'm your Maasai guide, and I understand you're a keen photographer." And he's taking my bags and putting them in the truck. And I said, "Yeah, I am." And he looked at me and he said, "Would you like to meet Tim?" Just like that. And
Oh, wow.
I was like, yeah. And we
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
10 minutes down the track. And there was Tim with 4 of his buddies under a tree having a little siesta. I mean, he almost met me at the point. That set me up. That day set me up for an extraordinary 3 days. And it was totally magical. Simultaneous to this experience was my mother had just passed away. So I was also bereaved. And being a busy woman, my mother was 97, so she had a long life, but the matriarch had died.
Mm.
And this was an opportunity for me to have some solo time in the midst of all of this. And the next day, Billy Pilly and I went out onto the Amseli Plains, and 500 at least elephants came across the plain right to our car.
Oh my goodness.
And it was just extraordinary. Even he was blown away by this experience. And the last night when we were there, as the others in this group will probably tell you, it's a tradition to have a sundowner, which is a drink, at the end of the day with the sun going down and the animals being there. And Billy took me out onto this rise for a sundowner. Again, it was just the 2 of us the whole time. And Tim and Craig, who everybody on this safari met, who's now the most famous elephant in the world, and 4 of their buddies came to the sundowner. So I came home from this experience being blown apart. To those of you in Australia, simultaneously to my experience in January of 2020, Australia was on fire, and billions of animals were being burned alive. And I don't need the science here. This is one of my beliefs. I think elephants know a lot, and I think they communicate in ways that we have no way to know. But I felt like they gave me a gift, and they were also speaking for the whole world in some sense, in terms of the risks and what's happening in climate change. And out of that experience came my book, came writing in community. So I was home for 2 weeks, and I got a message that Tim had died. He died of natural causes of a twisted gut, which was like another shock. I mean, I saw him 2 weeks before he died.
Yeah.
Mother's death, yada, yada, all of those pieces coming together. And then I felt like they healed me and my heart in a way that I hadn't really been connected to in terms of my own loss. And they changed the course of my life. And then 2 weeks after that, I get this invitation to this Akimbo community to start writing. And I had a story to tell, and I suddenly had a vehicle and a community to share it with. And then we had lockdown, which was even better.
Yeah.
We were confined.
Which you don't hear often. Yeah.
And so all those other distractions in my life, responsibilities, etc., was just like I had the space and the time. And so that's my origin story. So I have been back to Kenya every year, except 2023, since. And this wonderful travel agent who I've worked with said to me in 2021, he said, "Why don't you take a group over there?" Well, that was all I needed, was an excuse to introduce people to what I loved.
Got some more seats on the plane. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the origin of the safari. And my work has been about deepening my connection in Kenya. I have very deep roots there now, telling stories about elephants and conservation. That's a lot
That's
of pause.
that's it's like I want to sit for a moment in silence just to take in everything you've just shared. The the story's amazing. Like I'm sitting here, and you know how sometimes you get goosebumps and they sort of go away. I just have this permanent flow of goosebumps hearing you tell the story. I'm it's extraordinary. And then, well, I certainly love the fact we're talking about community, and you landed in communities, and then there was an invitation to say, hey, why don't you bring people along? You're like, absolutely, yeah, and to have those people here on the call is fabulous. Thanks so much for sharing that, Kathy. I'm touched by all the different parts, the different elements, the family elements, the connection with the elephants and the environment and the ecology and everything is it's diverse and rich. Um,
Thank
Thanks
you.
for that.
And people came, which was the bonus here. And there's some of them are here tonight. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I'm going to hand over here to at this point because you've nailed the different elements that I said. Hey, how about we talk about this? You're just like bang, bang. You've just done a fabulous job. I'm going to hand over to Michael to take us through the next bit.
Thank you. That was moving. While you were sharing your story, I texted my daughter. I said, "Bring me my elephant book." She knew exactly what I was talking about. So of course, I have it,
Aw.
and now it's going to be even more. I'm going to, when today after we finish, I'm going to go reread it and really enjoy it in a
And
different
Michael, if
way.
you hold up the cover, that's from the day when the 500 elephants came directly towards me. That was,
Wow,
yeah,
that's
that was,
life changing. Yeah. So now I can understand why people want to go on this, and why the people that you this group is here, and why it was so special. But what we'd like to do now is give each of you as members of this life-changing time an opportunity to share your story and give us the whatever highlights you'd like, but also be thinking about who is this for, who else might enjoy it, and at the same time we can also we're working through some of the technical aspects before we started recording, but we can share some of the photos that you've been kind enough to give us. So with that in mind, if each of you will take a few minutes to highlight your experience, and if I'm missing something, Daniel, jump in, because you're on the screen for whatever reason.
Shall I throw up the first picture? Is that
Yeah, the group photo. Yeah.
yeah?
And then we didn't have a real running order here. Whoever would like to take a lead and share your thoughts and your experience.
And maybe just tell me when to move on through the pictures as well. Yeah.
And it might be helpful for us to understand what decision process did you go through, and how did you end up going on this wonderful journey?
Well, I can join in if you're ready.
Please.
Okay, so I'm Ellen Newman, and I write a travel and photography blog called Hidden Insight, INSITE. So trips are part of what I do at this stage of life. Africa had never been on my bucket list. It was sort of very far away. and I'm not an animal person, so that, you know, it was over there. But excuse me, fighting a leftover cold here. But lots of people had gone before. People had loved it, and I said, "Why not? Let's do it." So my husband and I got on a Zoom with Kathy, and we agreed this would be a really fun thing to do. And cough one more time here. And it was not life-changing in the way it was for Kathy. You know, has not become the thing I'm doing, but I felt like I was at creation, and in a very biblical way. And I'm not usually, I would not describe myself as a spiritual person. I tend to shy away from that. And we sat there, and my husband and I were in the van with Betsy, and the world was new in a way that I can barely describe, or I've tried to describe it because I've written 2 blog posts so far about it. But the world was fresh. We were there at the beginning. We got to see it. And of course, it wasn't the beginning. It was a small piece that has, in a sense, been saved from that time. And it was spectacular. The friendships were spectacular, but that was going on anyway within the group. And it was just a very special experience. And just to backtrack for one more minute to the first place. So Amboseli was the last place we went. And I was really glad it was at the end, because it felt like the culmination of everything else. But the first place we went with the Samburu people was very, very special in terms of meeting another culture. I mean, very open and forthright conversations with the guys who were our guides. And it opened up another world for us. And I thought that was pretty incredible. So,
Ellen, one follow-up question. How long were you all together?
what was it, about 10 days, Kathy?
Yeah, we were 10 days, but we also had sort of an extra day together, and it was a 10-day safari, but we had an extra day or 2 together in Nairobi, actually, as we were gathering. Yeah.
So it wasn't wasn't a terribly long trip from that perspective, but it was very rich and very rewarding. And what was particularly fun is when we got down to Amboseli and we got by the big tuskers, you could see Kathy's face light up. You could tell we were in Kathy's special place. And I think it made all of us happy to be there with her.
I think I'm seeing that face now as well,
Yeah.
Ellen. Even the memory of it. Yeah. Did you should I put the pictures up that you've sent through, Ellen, and maybe you can tell us about?
Sure. I picked fairly randomly. Picked fairly randomly. Mine were all iPhone pictures, because by the time Leanne had asked for them, we were already on this other trip. So I didn't have the hard drive, with the Africa pictures from the camera. So
okay. Can you see the lion at the moment?
Right now, I just see the picture of us in front of the mountain.
Okay, I'm just going to reshare this. Excuse me. Okay. I'll just share the screen. That will make it easier. So can you see the line now?
Yeah, see the line.
Yes.
Want to say
anything? So that's your first pick.
Yeah, they were in a fairly random order, I believe. This was down in Amboseli.
Yep. So does this particular line have a name?
I have no idea.
Metro Golden Mayor.
My husband just leaned over and peeked and said MGM.
Yeah, MGM. It does look a little like an MGM line.
All right. Well, so I'll flick on from this.
Yeah, and if anyone has any comments on the photos, not just Ellen, feel free to chime in about your part in the experience.
So
Does
this
this
one,
fella have a name? Or maybe
You
it's
have
not a
to ask
fella.
Kathy, I'm not sure.
Craig. This
That
is
one is Craig.
That's Craig?
oh wow! So you can just look at that elephant and go, that
This is the most famous elephant in the world at the moment. Yes, this is Craig.
Uh,
He's 52.
Yeah.
He's super tusker.
52.
He's 52. And he's in must at the moment, so he's out spreading his seed across the Amboseli Plain with his
right.
At 52.
Go, Craig.
Life goals.
Yeah, they really become, it's really at age 40 when these big tuskers become the most virile, if you will, and the elephants prefer, if you're a female elephant, these males have high social status as well as obviously gene status. They are the wise elders in the community and they are the chosen ones.
Wow. So do you know how the eldership kind of happens? How is it protection of the herd? What sort of things?
It's age. It's age.
Right.
So
Okay.
yes, with age comes wisdom, hopefully, and experience.
So there's hope. There's hope for me yet. This is great news.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of the wisdom part, okay?
Oh,
That's what I
right.
was referring to.
And
Yeah.
Is this Craig again?
And Craig, you can tell Craig because of his tusks, but also if you see that ear on the left, his right ear, it has a big right angle cutout.
Yeah.
Mm.
So he's easily identified, as well as his massive tusks.
Okay. And so that part of the ear there, that's just natural growth. That's not from attack or anything like that.
So he might have caught it on a branch when he was young, or
Yeah. Yeah.
they're not born that way. But many of them have holes in their ears or tears in their ears.
Yeah.
And Sally Trust that's been doing research on these particular elephants. They're the most researched elephants in the world. So for 50 years, they identify them by their ears. So they're like in their data, by their ears and their tusks.
There you go.
Fascinating.
And does this one have a name?
Not Craig.
There's the smile though, right, Ellen?
There's Kathy. Kathy doing what she loves to do best.
Yeah. In heaven by the looks.
That's beautiful, Ellen. That's Mount,
What's the mountain in the distance?
Mount Kilimanjaro, the tallest mountain in
That is Mount Kilimanjaro. Wow.
Yeah.
There you
And
go.
and just seeing that mountain was such a thrill. I mean, we've all seen pictures of it.
Yeah.
You know, we used to watch those TV shows and like, oh my God, it's real. It's there. And it's actually in Tanzania. It's actually south of Kenya where we were.
Did you find yourself too, Ellen, sort of getting into the just suddenly like pulling the camera out all the time as well and wanting to snap
And
things up?
Daniel, that's what I do when I'm not at home. You should see what we've been doing the last week that we've been here in Santa Fe area.
Yep. So you're with a kindred spirit there.
Yep.
There's Mick flying the plane.
You go. We offer all kinds of special experiences on our safaris. You get to fly.
Is that prior to takeoff?
It was a natural.
No.
We got to take turns in the co-pilot seat. It's not I mean, I suppose it is functional, but
Yeah.
It's
just for fun.
functional.
Didn't pull out any barrel rolls or anything.
No.
Yeah. Well, I can notice that you're just over 6,000 feet or something like that, and yes,
the pilot amongst us. Yes.
Yeah. Well, what was interesting to me was the airspeed indicator which is to the left of so down those three dials at the bottom, to the left of her hand. The That's the airspeed indicator, and then the altimeter is the big one toward her hand. That one that tells you how high she was, and then the
Okay.
attitude indicator's in the middle, and that's the one that you watch to make sure you're straight and level. Or you just look outside.
If you can't feel it, yeah.
Yeah, you gotta look outside. Yeah, that's really cool. What an exciting thing.
I'm just moving on here with the pictures. I hope the
Yeah.
pace is okay. It looks so comfortable.
Yeah, we watched this cat have a nice big juicy meal, and then just sort of sit there in the tree, just happy as could be.
Wow.
And the funny thing was the guys in our particular car pulled out a snack for us, and they pulled out chicken wings, and it was just really funny to be hilarious to be sitting there munching on bones after we could actually hear the cat crack the bone.
All connected, right, Ellen?
All connected.
Yeah.
That's a leopard.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's a
Yes.
leopard. They're incredible athletes, and they take their food up into the tree so no one else can get it.
Right. And the back legs there, they're just hanging down.
Be relaxed. Oh,
Right.
It's
just like a kitty.
it's
Right.
funny, isn't it? How yeah. And it like that's comfortable, but like I'm looking at the big limb that's going across its stomach, and if it's just eaten, I'm thinking, how can that be comfortable? But that's their thing. Betsy's turn flying. Oh wow.
And that was Kevin. That was Kevin. He was one of our Samburu guides, a really not knowledgeable naturalist, and he was very photogenic. I have lots of pictures of him.
Yeah, what a outfit. What a
Kathy can explain more about what all the parts mean of the outfit. She spent more time with them than we have.
So the Samburu are like cousins of the Maasai, and on our travels we were hanging out with the Samburu and the Maasai. But the Samburu are even more colorful than the Maasai. So the necklace I have on is Maasai. The Samburu are also known as the butterfly people, and you can see their beadwork is a little different. The warriors, when this is also true for the Maasai, when the males go through a stage in their development, they're circumcised at age 14, 15, 16, and Ellen can tell you a little bit about that too. And then they become warriors for about 8 or 10, sometimes 12 years. No one, this is changing now, but they don't know when they're born. So they're really like cohorts, groups of young boys would grow up together. They would become warriors together. And these Samburu warriors were our guides. So the other thing that's happening in terms of the benefits of tourism for the Kenyan economy and for these regions, as Ellen said, Kevin was an extraordinary naturalist. He could tell us anything about anything, bird, mammal, plant, tree, insect. He had also been to college for tourism. So they are getting some more formal education now, but that's also sort of another long story. I love taking groups first to the north. This is in northern Kenya, to meet the Samburu. They're warm, they're generous, and the places where we start, there's less wildlife traffic compared to the Masai Mara. The wildlife's there, but it's not as obvious. And so this was a wonderful opportunity to learn about culture. You want to add anything, Ellen, to that?
Well, what I would add just is that, and through Kathy's connections and her friendships, we were invited to they'll call it the party, the celebration, after a young man's circumcision. And it was just really interesting to be around a whole group of people, very, very, very different cultural rituals. they're dancing, but the dancing includes this amazing jumping, just straight up. And it was just a gift to be there, because you don't know how long this culture will continue with those traditions.
Thanks, Ella. There's one more photo, but I'm also mindful of time hearing a bit from Mick and Betsy.
Yeah.
But this is the last of the pictures you'd thrown in, Ellen. We can explain what's.
The ladies who make the beads came up to join us, and this was Betsy interacting with one of those ladies, and she can tell you more about that. We were all sitting around on the floor, and the ladies were making necklaces or bracelets for us. So it was really fun.
Fabulous. So maybe that's a good opportunity, Betsy, to hear a bit.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, this is grand to get together. The memories just triggered the last few days from the pictures, and finally to see the dancing by the fire. That's just such. My experience being there was that my perspective expanded. It just expanded my whole perspective of the harmony of nature. It did, as Kathy said, that the elephants had a healing for the heart, and for me to be relatively in the cage with my other human friends. We were in the cages, and they were free and wild and at home and in this majesty. You could feel their relaxed presence, this powerful presence of the animals in their kingdom. And all the people were in the cages in the truck, and I saw that day after day and felt the enormity of the sky and the plains and the vastness of the volume of the animals. We got there just as Kenya had a lot of rain, and the grass was tall and green, and the grazers were fat, and there were hundreds and hundreds of baby zebras and baby gazelles and baby elephants, and oh my, it had a very strong impact on my perspective to just see, that nature knows how to heal, and we're perhaps better off than we think we are. The protection, the conservation land. Kathy led us in a great direction by going to the animal sanctuaries, the baby elephant sanctuaries. There was a baby rhino or two too. And to hear all about the conservation that's being done, that they're building those corridors back again. They're inviting the Maasai people and the native people to do their grazing in certain areas so that the corridors can be open for all the migrations of the elephants and the other animals. And it's just astounding, the care that's going on to preserve, conserve, protect these animals. And from my perspective, they were flourishing with all that rain and all that grass. And Kathy had been there in a drought before, and so she was quite a good perspective to share too, that this is really good times for all the animals. So that, that and small things like just being at night, being in the tent at night and hearing the symphony of roaring and hippos, wah, and then hyenas. Actually, you hear this whole hyena thing going. They're calling each other. They're calling each other with that laughter to come and get some food. It was fabulous. My senses were alerted. I mean, when I look back at it, I realized all my stuffed animals as a child were small African animals. And so I had little giraffe toys and baby elephant toys and lions and stuff. And they all came to life. So I was enchanted from the inside out, and still am about it all, I have my job at the moment is leading wilderness trips. Well, if that experience in Africa, suddenly I'm able to really speak about the presence of the field in nature and how healing it is. And so my heart was healed pretty well, pretty dramatically by being there. And then there was the dancing and the singing, that dancing that Ellen was talking about at the ceremony of the young man who had been circumcised. The unity of the tribal people and the honor it was to meet his mother and have her stop and take time out to greet each of us and hold our hand and say thank you for coming. And then we'd be invited into her home. It was life-changing. And then we all came out and we started dancing. Well, they were dancing. And then they're going, come on, come dance. So we're just jumping up and down with these beautiful people, hearing the chanting. And I mean, it's just, I am so grateful that I didn't miss that trip, that I was there, and that it continues, this group. And the way I heard about it, I'll share that, because you asked what in the world inspired you to come. Well, I had been knowing Kathy through Ethos and reading her work and seeing the progression of her book being published and stuff. So I was gung-ho, and I love elephants and animals anyway. And so then one day she just pops a little note up. I'm thinking of having a little safari, just a small group of us writers. What do you think? What do you think? Anybody want to go? And she threw in all the pictures of the elephants and all the magic of the things we would do. And I wrote her that night. I said, I don't know how I'm going to pull this off, but I'm totally coming. I said, I felt this trunk reach around my tummy and just hug it. That's it. I'm in. And it was just, some things are meant to be. But I want to also acknowledge that the circle of people are here who were on that trip. It was a very, very intimate bond we had, riding around together to see these animals. And we were silent. We were just silent in the awe of the presence of these ginormous elephants. And my last day there, we were at Amboseli and we were getting ready to go, I guess, the next morning. And I just stood on the edge of the grass, and the beautiful, beautiful big elephants were right there, and they're walking up to us, and they're just in their majestic presence. And I just wept. I wept and wept. And Kathy walked up. She goes, I know, me too. I mean, really, it's amazing. And to see what Kathy was saying about the presence of the elephants and their energy and across the globe. These giant mammals, I happen to live with humpback whales, and there's also a similar thing there, that they're communicating a unity and a healing globally that is, I mean, who knows how large it is, but we can feel that, and we can be emissaries for them, ambassadors for them, and what they're teaching us. And I'm in that 100%, in my work with young people and teaching them about nature and repair and hope for the wilderness and the ecosystem. So I'm just enchanted by that trip, and I intend to do more.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Wow.
Yeah, all I can say is wow.
You can see that the Samburu woman was also enchanted by Betsy.
Well, I had a lot of fun with those gals. They made, they make beaded stuff, and oh yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yep.
I love the word enchanted that's come out.
Yeah, that one I wrote down. Yeah. Own land of enchantment. Ellen, you're in the land of enchantment, but that seems like you've been a few places that are enchanting.
And
Us,
Mick,
go ahead.
I was just going to
see you later, Michael.
Mick was my roommate in our tent. And we just had a blast listening all night long to the noises, and then waking up, having tea out on the deck just really early. And, there's the full glory of Mount Kilimanjaro, just a huge backdrop. And into the scene walks 1, 2, 3 big tusker elephants just grazing and standing there. And you can't even speak. It was just awe-inspiring.
You shouldn't speak, probably, right? It's just to take in.
Yes, no, there was no need to speak. It was just,
Savor the moment.
we just savored it, and I'm still savoring it very minute. So glad that we can get together and talk about it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for hosting this. It's really
Yeah.
sweet to get together.
It was a really wonderful, this is Mick speaking, it was a really wonderful trip. I was grateful that Kathy organized it, grateful to the community in WIC that we were all connected in so many wonderful ways through our words and our work, and that it translated, just so beautifully in this experience together, that we could support one another and reverberate else, like the experience off of one another each day was just magical. And for me, this picture and the community there was the thing that really was really inspiring. For me, this was a coming home. I grew up in Africa, but the community and being able to connect with them and with each other through that experience was really magical. Thank you, Kathy.
How long, Mick? This is Michael. How long had you been away before you returned home?
Oh,
Was
like 30 years.
so it was, yeah, quite
It was a
magical for you.
long time. Yeah, I grew up in South Africa, so a lot of strife and
Oh yeah,
challenge to go back. But this is a different part of Africa, and it's just beautiful to see the Samburu and the Maasai and meet our guides. Each of our guides in all of the places were just wonderful, beautiful human beings who not only knew how to create connection with us, but connect us through them to their tradition, their tribe, their appreciation of nature, the animals, the sky. I mean, so many incredible people doing just this beautiful work of conservation and education.
yeah. It seems that that from everything you all have shared, that they're much more connected with their environment and surroundings than much of our populations where we
Well,
live and work. And
yeah, I mean, in North America, that's a different kind of a pandemic going on, and unless you do work like Betsy or I mean, I live on an organic farm, so unless you do work with nature and people, um, you've got to be actively pursuing that connection to ground you. Yeah,
yeah,
it was a gift. Thank you again, Kathy. Appreciate it very much for the invitation and hopefully the opportunity to do it again.
The thrill that you all came made my heart soar. Daniel, I know you're trying to shift pictures, and Mick can probably speak to this because she was also a great motivator, because twice we held writing in community right now sessions when we were over there, and I think
I try to find those things. I'm going to just close these ones down and stop sharing for a second.
of that one
And
they were the next two pictures, at least that I could see on your screen, Daniel.
here we go.
Betsy, look at the elephant in your background. I love it. There.
Is that one of them?
That's it. That's in
Yes.
Sahara. So this is with the Samburu, and don't you love it? We have these two gorgeous warrior guides. We said we're going to do this right now thing. Does anyone want to do this? And they joined right in. We all read back what we wrote. Betsy, was it you or somebody gave a prompt? Do you remember what I don't remember what the prompt was. But we had a prompt.
I love it. It's right now when reading out loud in the.
did
the
they give
safari
the
image.
prompt,
I think
or you all
Lisa,
gave the prompt?
I think Lisa did the prompt, but I'm not sure now.
I think it might have been, what did you write about something you learned today? And I'm thinking, here I am between these two guides who know everything about where we're going. And they actually, I can't remember whether it was Ian or Telis, but one of them talked about something that he learned like out on the trail. And I was like, what? They're just
Is that his computer?
Maybe.
I believe so. I mean, that's one of the things that was so interesting. And when when I've shown this picture to other people, they're on a computer. Like, yeah, they'll have their cell phones. I mean, they're running a business. The Samburu people are the basic owners of the lodges, but then but they have it under management. But one of their guys is the head manager of the lodge. Kathy knows the exact jobs better than I do. But yeah, they're running a business. There are 3 lodges. There's an elephant conservation center, and it may be way, way, way out, in the wilderness, that it really was only an hour by that short flight from Nairobi, which is in a capital of an African country and has all the chaos to go along with that.
However, having said that, I mean, Silas had an education and he had a significant role. We went to the Manadas where we went for the circumcision, those people do not have computers.
Right.
They go to school. They don't have any electricity or running water. So that, these guys live in 2 worlds. They live in their native indigenous world, which is on the land, and it's how they grew up. And they are also a bridging generation that's getting a formal education. And as Ellen says, running a successful business. Yeah, it's a very fascinating story. And this is one of the most successful conservation stories in Africa, I would say, and perhaps maybe in the world in terms of how the elephants have come back. The elephants in this region were completely poached out by the Somalis in the north. And now there's over 20,000 elephants living there. And it's because of these people. Yeah, there's a lot going on. It's very exciting.
Fascinating.
It is fascinating.
I think you had another picture.
I've got, yeah. Do you want me to flick, I've gone back one here. So this is Craig. This is Craig again. How's it going, Craig?
It's great.
Under Kilimanjaro. If I go forward again, there's a couple here of Betsy's pics as well. I've got an eye on the time.
Yeah, we spent some time with those lions, but our guides were fantastic. So rain or shine, we were out there in those big, I don't know what you call them. I call them cages. Anyway, we were in our mobile units. And, and the lions the animals, in my experience, and Kathy, you can expand on this, but they've grown up around those vehicles. They don't care anything about them. They don't think about them. They walk right up to it. And this particular lion that evening just wandered up. I was shooting footage on my cell phone, but I couldn't send that. But I got such a fabulous movie of this gorgeous creature just walking up eye to eye, very calm, very relaxed in his home. And is majestic. Yeah.
I'm seeing the lions like talking to their kids, going, "Come on, the mobile zoo's coming through today. Let's just,
Right.
come and have a look." And they're wanting, "Can I have a bite of one?"
Right. Yeah.
Just a little.
How did we get in there?
Yeah. I love that reversed role you described. If you're in the cages and they're just wandering around looking at you going past, it's
yes, indeed.
quite yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Shall I move on to the next one?
The irony is not lost.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites there.
Love that guy.
That guy is right. That's the railing, 3-4 feet from our bed, just hanging out with us. I mean, we were so immersed in the heart of nature. It was fabulous.
Was this animal like shouting or something, or was it yawning? Or
I think yawning, but he was definitely showing some fangs there. So I want that 3 feet from my bed.
Waiting for some food to drop in or something.
Right. Well, they were playful. So but they would deliver tea and cookies to your deck in the morning if you asked them to. And Mick and I would sit there with the tea, and as soon as they saw the cookies, they would run over and try to grab them with their little hands, and we'd say, no, you can't have those cookies. And they, they're just fabulous.
You told that creature no.
We did. We did. We had.
That's what I'm thinking.
And that creature was probably letting us know what he thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had monkeys in most places we were. Oh, that shows you some of the rainwater and how lush and green it was in Kenya. That's in Masai Mara.
It's heavenly.
Isn't it? Okay. So in that water, it's just loaded with hippos. Lots and lots of hippos. You just see their little ears and their little eyes poking up, and they're staying cool in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason the test is so short is because the hippos get out at night and they graze. So the hippos have done the lawnmower number all around.
Right.
They're like the goats, that we have.
So when you see like that landscape, do you just sort of like get a feeling again of sort of transported back there? I know I feel a certain looking at the picture, but it's different if you've been there.
Yes, it's transcendent. It just captured my heart. I keep coming up with this word, expansive, because it was just large and filled with peace for the animals. Instead, their peace, the cycle of nature does what it does, but they were at peace. They weren't harassed by humanity or encroachment or anything. They were just in their wide, beautiful home, and it's fabulous.
Just being.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
That is Craig, and a young one, which we've figured was sort of probably being mentored by Craig there at the foot of Kilimanjaro.
I actually don't think that's Craig.
Oh.
He looks too small. But I'm not sure, Betsy. But that young one, Craig has 4 escorts called askari, which is a Maasai word for guard. And so the old guys, they are protected by the younger guys. As Betsy said, they're learning from them. And it's sort of like you get to hang out with an elder. And it's fascinating.
Fabulous.
I need to use this strategy.
Yes, get some young guys.
I couldn't find anybody that would go along with it. That's the problem. Oh, look at the little rhino.
Little rhino.
Look at that.
This little baby was in there with the elephants at Sheldrick, right? Yeah, he was rescued, and all the baby elephants are getting in amazing care from their keepers, and this guy likewise. But since this one was so little and little orphan, always wore a blanket.
Blankie.
Totally.
So cool.
And then with.
Oh, there's the other writing group.
So
Yeah,
this is right. Mix couple of So is that another one now?
Yeah, I think one of the topics was, one thing that surprises me is,
right.
And
Nice.
I was filled with surprise and awe every day.
So good.
Aww.
That was at one of the
Yeah,
one of the schools that we got to go and see. They have a traveling, I think it's a Waldorf school, a traveling Waldorf school that's run by a she was a teacher, I know, but she had kids, and anyway, it's amazing. And I gave them my phone so they could play with it, and this is what they did.
That's great.
That is
that one in the middle. You see the look. He's like, huh?
Just a perfect picture.
The paparazzi of these little 3-year-olds hanging around her. It's actually a nomadic Montessori school that they've done in the north. These kids are all preschoolers, and the Maasai and the Samburu are pastoralists, so their tradition is they move with their cows. So it's even more challenging for this culture to send their kids to school because they don't stay in one place. Again, this is another brilliant example of a solution that they've come up with. It's like, okay, so we'll have a nomadic school and we'll move with the kids. And they're starting these kids with early childhood education. The woman who we met, who's the teacher there, was just extraordinary. A lot of these kids are suffering from malnutrition and so on, so they're making sure these kids are getting at least one good meal a day. Yeah, so much good stuff happening.
Can I just circle back to something? Did you just say they move with their cows?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
just that bit, like you sort of say it like off the cuff, what an expression of nature. And it's like, okay, the cows are moving, we're going over here now. Like, not that the animals, that the nature is what's dictating what happens next.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a lesson there.
And then they move the infrastructure to work with that. The school moves with, because the kids move, because the cat, it's powerful.
This has been since 2020. I first went to one of these schools in 2021, which is, I think they had just started. So this is very new, this model. Otherwise, kids in rural Kenya, particularly in this region, they would have to leave and go and live in a town or a community. But typically, I mean, I've also written about this. This is where the girls are married off at age 13, 14. And the boys are watching the cows. The girls are watching the sheep and the goats. And then the girls get married and you have lots of children so you can keep this cycle going. And for the Samburu and the Maasai, cows equal their wealth. So they have been cohabiting with their cows. They're known as pastoralists. The people and the cows have been cohabiting with the wildlife since time immemorial. This is been going on hundreds of years.
Who knew?
Well, I'm through the pictures, Leanne, and with an eye on the time, we appreciate the fact that it's gone over a little. Maybe, Leanne, we hand over to you, I guess. I'm not sure.
When are you all going back? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Well, I know with an eye on the time, and obviously, conscious of, we sort of said an hour, but I think that, if everyone's okay, just to sort of do a bit of a closing. I think one thing that jumps out at me is, like, Kathy, I'm curious to know how you feel like on the call today, listening to everyone talk about their experience and how it's impacted them, and what comes up for you today, having listened to all these stories and such.
I'm like Betsy. I feel expanded. We had an extraordinary time together, and it wasn't my goal. I don't know how to say it. I mean, I just wanted to share the people who came. I had some contact with. They weren't strangers, and I felt like kindred spirits. It's like, hey, you might be interested in this, and they showed up, and we had an extraordinary time. It means different things for different people, but Africa cracks you open. It's also not. We all had hard moments during that trip, and it gets into your psyche when you're being exposed to things like this, and listening to these people's stories, and being in the cage, and seeing animals that are wild and free. And also, there's a lot of conflict. I mean, in terms of climate change, it's very real. So when we came home, then Kenya had this massive flooding. The areas where we were, a couple of the camps we were in were completely flooded out. The rivers, you couldn't cross the rivers. And there have been 2 years of no rain. So all these things, in 10 days, you get, it's like fire hose worth. it's a lot. And I think it's wonderful to hear the processing that's going on. And I just feel like, oh, we need a reunion. Well, thank you so much for providing this opportunity.
It's a pleasure. It is absolutely been wonderful. And I think, maybe to sort of close it out, and then we can sort of, I guess, draw a line in the sand of our official, and if anyone wants to keep chatting, that I think would be good. But it would be nice to maybe do around the room and give each of us an opportunity to, I guess, express what we've witnessed today, what we've felt listening to the stories, and what's come up for us, and maybe in a couple of words express what you've witnessed today, and then maybe in our sort of right now fashion, tag somebody else after you've had your couple of words. And when I say us, I mean that's all of us, because certainly as listening to these stories, it's been amazing. Maybe I'll start. Perhaps I should start. What have I witnessed today?
I think you should start, Leanne.
I think I will. Thanks for the permission. I've witnessed just awe-inspiring stories and pictures and childlike wonder on my screen and in my heart today. Thank you. Mick, I'm going to pass to you.
Thank you. I have witnessed the power of community, and it's beautiful. Michael.
I'm going with this last thing I heard Kathy talk about, which I'm not going to forget this, and I know it basically is so inspirational. Africa cracks you open. I think we all need to find places that crack us open, and to do it in community seems to be the most magical way to do that. So thank you so much. Let's see. Betsy.
Oh boy, I have had this longing for connection again with the people here, and I am really moved by it, because I didn't realize I had so much longing. But to be back again after experiencing that was really seems to be feeding me. I missed you. And you have an adventure like that, what are you going to do? You're just going to try to keep staying alive and let it keep growing in you. But I missed you, and I'm so happy to see you again. And you four that are hosting this, thank you so much.
I'm going to pass the baton.
Okay, I'm going to pass to Ellen.
First of all, I want to thank Kathy again, because it was amazing to see it both from your eyes and from our own, and you beautifully left space for us to discover it for ourselves. And that's the mark of a really good tour leader or trip leader or whatever. And I'm really grateful for that, but we both had your guidance, and we could have our own feelings and experiences. And I miss you guys. I really do. Yeah, like totally. It's like, God, we live so far away. It's like, ridiculous. Daniel.
Thank you, Alan. This is really hard because it's so big. I've witnessed blessing, connection. It's like I can't hold it, and I guess that's why maybe people are cracked open, because we can't. It's big. It's just so big. And I guess I want to honor you, Kathy, as well, in hearing your story, and you tell it beautifully, and in that it can be easy to sort of, I think, maybe go, oh, yeah, that's a great story, but I was sort of picturing each step along the way and your decisions and what you did, and it led to this, and it felt like, oh yeah, and then this happened. There's so much intentional choosing, and there's obviously an adventurer within that you're saying yes to, and you're choosing a life to make this happen. And here we are talking about this. I'm a bit emotional as well. It's quite beautiful, and I really honor you for saying yes to what you heard whispering to you. It inspires me with what I'm trying to do. So thank you, Michelle.
I've been on mute the whole time, so no one's been hearing me sit here saying, wow, for an hour. Pass to Kathy.
Well, I'm very touched. I'm really touched. I'm full of gratitude for the Ethos gang, the four of you, to say, hey, would you come and do this? I'm reminded how grateful I was on the trip for those who came. I'm very sorry. I miss Lisa tonight. I'm sorry she's not here. She would have her own, beautiful way of expressing what impacted her. And thanks for reminding me, Michael. I'm going to write about how Africa cracks us open.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And this community has cracked us open, right? I know it's led me. I came home with bursting, but I didn't know what to do with it. I had no idea there'd be a book at the end of it. I only had a book because of this community. And that's the truth. So
Just feels like a big group hug. I tell you, again, those who say that you can't feel while you're on a call and we're in our individual boxes, just haven't experienced calls like we have.
Yeah, they need to watch this.
They need.
Mm.
Thank you so much.
Nick,
Yeah,
That's good.
thank you.